It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I quite like the summer, because obviously that's when I play cricket, but a little bit of rain wouldn't go amiss.
Fuck off. How about that?
Moving on.
How about that? How about get your English, ooh, we could do with a bit of rain, ooh, it's just a little bit too hot nonsense out my face. It's the first time in what feels like forever we're actually taking advantage of the fact we've destroyed the planet. As usually, this global warming means we get wetter, not hotter. So, no. If you want some water, get in a bath / shower.
Okay.
Neil, second show of the week, mainly due to the fact we couldn't do it last week, but this was our regularly scheduled show, and boy, have we got a doozy. Kind of. It's the AFC South. I do think Neil has chosen the order we do this in, kind of east, south, north, west kind of concept, or however we're going to do it. So I am assuming he went east and then south to get the worst divisions out of the way. But we shall see. 4 teams, a lot of dross, but hopefully some fantasy gold for you to dig at and fill your teams with. Neil is also going to highlight the best 10 fantasy quarterbacks according to him, and we will discuss that in light of the ADP rankings and some considerable differences, it should be said. However, before we get on to both of those things, Neil has the privilege and honour of being a member of the Scott Fishbowl army and is in the middle of his drafting. So we thought, as we've done the last few years, we would give you an update on where Neil is up to and how he's getting on. I think, first of all, Neil, if you can give everyone a bit of context on this year's scoring to then put into context your team.
Yeah, as with every year that Scott does this, the scoring changes slightly. He didn't do it too much this year, but this year the format it rewards accuracy from the quarterback position, so you get extra points if a quarterback doesn't throw a lot of interceptions and also completes more than 65% of his passes. There's still a reward for tight ends, in extra points per reception, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think there's points per first down, which I know you're a fan of, but I think that's across the board. So it's really the common way to start fantasy, unless you're a zero RB zealot, I am talking about you, Denny, is to get your running backs, then get your wide receivers, then start thinking about quarterbacks and tight ends. This format really, it's probably imperative to get your quarterbacks under lock and key as quickly as you can, then your running backs, then your tight ends, and then worry about wide receivers as you go. So, as I say, the first few picks were likely to be quarterbacks. I didn't realise how quickly the quarterback well was going to go dry in my league, in my division in particular. But, I mean, we were at quarterback 23 by the end of the 5th round, which is when I took my second quarterback. So that should give you an idea of how the wind is blowing in my particular division.
How is your team looking and how are you feeling about it?
Well, this division, bless them. I say I'm in this year's, it's about cities. That was the theme. This year I'm in the Gotham City division, and I'm through. It only started on Monday, and we're already through 16 rounds, so which is fantastic because it's a slow draft. There's 8 hours on the clock, whatnot. My team, I had the 3rd overall pick, so I went with Patrick Mahomes. Then I got Jamar Chase. I didn't really want a wide receiver, but I thought, well, if I can get one stud and then build up the rest of the positions, I'll take it. So Jamar Chase. Then I went running back with Aaron Jones and Leonard Fournette. Jared Goff was the wide receiver quarterback 23. I got him at the 5'10". Then I went double dipped at tight end with Dallas Goedert and Dawson Knox. Running back 26 fell to me at the 803 at Miles Sanders. Then DJ Chark, Brandon Ayuk, Kenneth Gainwell. then Jacoby Myers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Gerald Everett, KJ Osborne, and Marvin Jones.
Fantastic, Neil. We know many people who were involved in this event yearly. Can you give us a brief idea on how a few of our close colleagues and friends are dealing with this draft this year?
Well, Denny, the aforementioned CD Carter 13, Adam Rank, and Marcus Grant all took Justin Herbert with their first round pick.
That's wild. Not wild as in wild. It's just that they all got the same player is interesting.
Yeah, there's not a lot of repetition amongst them. Roto Patrick Doherty, and Rank also had Trevor Lawrence as their second quarterback. Who else have we got here? I'm sure I had someone. Rank and Pat Doherty both had Justin Jefferson.
Nice.
And the Podfather, he went Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Stephon Diggs, Darren Waller, Cortland Sutton, Deontay Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, and Amari Cooper.
Nice.
And interesting one, Alex Gelhar started running back. He went Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey before he then tripled down on quarterback with Kirk Cousins, who this format is made for because he's accurate. He throws a lot of touchdowns and doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Mac Jones and Ryan Tannehill.
Awesome. We will, as always, continue to see how you get on in this format. But let's get on with our show and pick up on the top 10 QBs. So Neil, can you give us your top 10 QBs in descending order, please, from 10?
Yep, as we say, this is fantasy-wise. This is not a top 10 of their position. I'm not stupid. So starting from 10 down, Joe Burrow, Trey Lance, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen.
If we look at ADP as it stands so far, 10 is Russell Wilson, 9 is Tom Brady, 8 is Jalen Hurts, 7 Dak Prescott, 6 Joe Burrow, 5 Kyler Murray, 4 Lamar Jackson, 3 Justin Herbert, 2 Patrick Mahomes, and 1 Josh Allen. First question, Neil. After the last episode between us and I don't know if it was effusive praise of the Philadelphia Eagles, but our praise of the fact they're going to win a lot of games, let's talk about again the kind of fantasy value you could get if you had Jalen Hurts as your QB.
Well, if you have Jalen Hurts, obviously you get that magic, the rushing appeal, which is what pretty much fueled his fantasy goodness last year. He was first among all quarterbacks in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and rushing fantasy points from the quarterback position. So you get that. He doesn't have to go out and throw for 5,000 yards because you've got that weekly floor from running the ball. The problem will be if the Eagles are as good as we seem to think they are because of the poor schedule, it's going to suck pass attempts and it's going to suck quarterback scrambles and design runs out of the offense. They're just going to hand it off to running backs. So that's why I have him behind Kyler Murray. For example, it was a toss-up for me there. I just think Murray might have to run more and throw more than Hurts has to.
Talk me through Lance at 9, who isn't in the top 10 in ADP.
I think Trey Lance has the potential to be this year's Lamar Jackson in that he was getting taken late and ended up being a superstar because we know he's in a system that is designed to run. We would assume that Kyle Shanahan is going to put him in a position to make plays with his legs, as that was part of the reason I think the 49ers liked him so much. And we know he has an efficient relationship with at least 2 of his pass catchers. That's Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So if we assume that they're going to be good and they're going to, even if they're going to run the ball a lot, he's going to be a part of that. So he, I would expect him to vulture, for want of a better word, a few touchdowns down by the goal line. So if he's not in the top 10 and you've got other people in there, that's fine. I'll take the bargain. Thank you very much.
You are expecting Lamar to be great again, and that is a good thing, obviously. But you have him at 2. You think he'd be that good?
Yes, I do. Lamar Jackson was playing absolute lights out before he got injured. That was when they basically, they lost their entire backfield to ACL injuries before the start of the season. So it was a case of, okay, we can't run the ball, so there's no point in having the quarterback be the main part of the run game. We're just going to have to pass the ball. And he was doing quite well with not the greatest cast of pass catchers. Mark Andrews was exceptional. Marquise Brown was inconsistent. Rashard Bateman looked great, and then they phased him out of games. Don't ask me why. I'm not Greg Roman. I think that they've made it perfectly clear that what they want to do is go back to what worked in 2019 and 2020, and that is run the ball a lot. And that's great news because we know Lamar Jackson is a big part of that. We also have to factor in that it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they use him up and then let him go because he still hasn't signed a contract. That would then lead me to think there's more impetus to say, get as much out of him as we can. We've seen he is an electric rusher. He's probably one of the best runners in the NFL, regardless of position. But we've also seen that with that baked into the game plan, he can be an efficient passer, especially when it comes to touchdowns. He did lead the league in touchdown passes during his MVP season, so it wasn't all with his legs.
Neil, I thought after he left Seattle, you may have loved him, but still no love for Russell Wilson. Why is he not in your top 10?
He doesn't run anymore. So we're basically banking on Denver letting Russ cook. But, is that going to work? They've got the ground game. They've got the wide receivers. But we've seen that if Nathaniel Hackett is going to take anything from his Green Bay experience, this is a slow offense. Green Bay is a slow offense. They don't run a lot of plays. They take their time getting up to the line. We're banking on Russell Wilson continuing his hyper efficiency that he's shown throughout his career, but there's been a bit of a dip lately. So I would expect Denver to be quite good, but I don't expect Russell to fill the air with footballs and rack up 4,500, 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's the way the offense is going to work. So I think that's going to ding his fantasy value slightly. That's just my opinion. I say he doesn't run the ball anymore. So
fantastic stuff, Neil. That is it for the QBs next week. Tight ends, Neil's favourite. He will be absolutely spot on that. But till that note, let's get on with the AFC South. Yeah, we're not going to lie here. This is not the division that everyone wants to talk about. We know that. We got comments from Charles Dagnall and a few others. Although Adam Foxcroft was very defensive on his division, as you will be. Well, I say that I'm not defensive on the NFC East. Never have been. Never will be. This division plays in the AFC West, the NFC East. Plays one AFC South team, one AFC East team, and an NFC North team. It's not the most difficult of schedules, but it's not perfect. Let's start with the Houston Texans, as we joked about yesterday, with the third time that a team in the great state of Texas has been called the Texans. Go them. Biggest off-season headline: an albatross was removed from their neck, but questions still remain on the moves and stuff that the Houston Texans have done over the past few years in relation to their former quarterback. The big question:
I ask the questions.
Is this team still one of the worst in the NFL?
Comfortably. Can we move on?
Okay, yeah. Do you think, because weirdly last year they played considerably better than I think everyone thought they were going to. I think they were much more competitive than anyone thought, especially considering the vast majority of the roster they put on the field. No one thought they were going to be any good. Second year of Davis Mills, who was sneaky feisty last year. They are still terrible, but are they like picking in the top 3 again?
Yeah. Davis Mills was, you could argue, the second best rookie quarterback last year.
Agreed.
The team overachieved. I think that's a credit to the coaching of Dave Culley. The culture of this team showed you exactly how I feel about them by firing Dave Culley for overachieving. I wouldn't want to play for him. Don't like the ownership, don't like the general manager, don't like the weirdo who's running things off the field. This team is still toxic. It rid itself of a, let's say, massive millstone. It is talent poor at all the key positions. They don't have a modern identity. Because, I mean, are we seriously expecting Lovie Smith is going to unleash a revolutionary defence when everywhere he's been, he's ran the same damn Tampa 2? No, don't be wrong, 2 high coverage, yes, it works. That's a modified version of cover 2. You're playing country cover 2 to Lovie, oh, for God's sake. Seriously, there's very little to hope for of this team, and they will not become interesting until they fulfil their destiny and appoint Josh McCown as head coach next year.
That's almost going to happen, right? That's almost a no-brainer.
This is a CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. This is a potential landing spot. So, Texans fans, any of you are left, keep watching those quarterbacks because that's who you're going to be picking. Because this team is bad.
So enjoy Saturdays, not Sundays.
I think you would anyway.
Let's do it. Let's find out if there is a hidden fantasy darling in this team.
Hello, darling.
He's not so much hidden as more consistently underappreciated, but it's Brandon Cooks. He's currently going as the wide receiver 25. Cooks, as you pointed out to me in a conversation we had earlier today, is one of only 3 players with 6 1,000-yard seasons in his last 7. Brandon Cooks has been productive wherever he's been with a variety of quarterbacks. Granted, most of the quarterbacks have been good, and now there's Davis Mills, who is still could he be good? Davis Mills, I mean, Brandon Cooks is not going to be a wide receiver 1. They're not going to score enough touchdowns. But for where he's going, can he be a solid wide receiver 2? On volume alone, yes, certainly. Of course he could. Because, let's be honest, it's him or nothing in this offense.
That's who the buyer beware is.
Everyone else not named Brandon Cooks, there's no point. Don't kid yourself with Rex Burkhead or Marlon Mack or, Brevin Jordan. There's a breakout tight end. Why you bother him?
More likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl or not at all?
Draftniks, and they should start talking about them now.
There is a lot of 6 o'clock games. From Week 10, every game is 6 p.m. UK time. Their one foray into US prime time is Thursday Night Football against your Philadelphia Eagles.
When they're going to wear their battle red helmet.
Oh, is that when they're wearing battle red, is it? Fantastic.
That's it.
I look forward to not watching that game. Yeah, this team's going to struggle big time. They are talent poor. They have got worse at coach, which is probably an issue, as the coach probably got them a couple of wins last year. They will be discussed by draftniks, and yes, they are well in the hunt. This is a team the Atlanta Falcons need to keep a watchful eye on in their quest to be the first pick and get the quarterback that they desire. Let's move on, Neil, to the Indianapolis Colts, who, just on a side note, I've almost been deep diving this week while listening to the absolutely brilliant Luck on from the Athletic Football Show by Zach Kiefer, which is a 6-part narrative documentary of Andrew Luck's career. A fantastic listen, and I would highly recommend it.
Really is good.
Biggest off-season headline for the Colts, ironically, is another year, another quarterback. The big question, however,
I ask the questions.
Is this the most fantasy relevant the Indianapolis Colts have been since Peyton Manning was the quarterback?
I don't know. I mean, when Andrew
let me context this by saying that I'm talking then the Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin James Indianapolis Colts, where you had a wide receiver 1, a running back 1, and a wide receiver 2.
And a tight end 1 and Dallas Clark as well.
And tight end 1 and Dallas Clark, absolutely.
what we like about offenses, especially in fantasy, is when they're concentrated. So we know Jonathan Taylor's going to handle the bulk of the carries. We know Michael Pittman is going to see the bulk of the targets. We know Nyheim Hines is going to mix in behind the pair of them. We like that. So I say Jonathan Taylor is going to be an absolute superstar. I think Michael Pittman has a chance to be very good. Nyheim Hines has a chance to contribute. The Peyton Manning teams, as I say, they were all, if you don't get Wayne, you'll get Harrison, or the other way around, or you can just wait and get Clark. People forget that Andrew Luck was able to prop up 2 fantasy-relevant tight ends, Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen, whilst having T.Y. Hilton. So, they had that. They had their flashes. Plus, Luck, say, at those days, to his cost, as we found out in the podcast with Zach Kiefer, had some rushing value as well. Matt Ryan is not running the ball, people. The best thing we can do here is protect him. As one of the struggles we did see when he was in Atlanta is he had a porous offensive line that, much like the Colts did with Luck, they've tried to fix but have not been successful. It's been we signed this free agent. Yeah, he's a free agent for a reason. So we know that they're going to lean on the ground game. We know that Matt Ryan is then going to utilise play action and he's going to target Michael Pittman. So that's great. We know Taylor's going to get his, we know Pittman's going to get his, and we know Nyheim Hines is going to fill in behind the 2 of them. That's all we need to worry about. I believe this team has enough on offense and defensive, because they've got defensive playmakers, because it's all you want. Don't need to be the Baltimore Ravens of 2000, don't need to be the 1986 Bears. Yes, I said 86, they were better than 85, look it up. You just need to be middle of the road if your offense is that good. So I have faith in Frank Reich because he has an ability that he has to constantly showcase, and that is an ability to change his offense to suit his quarterback on a yearly basis.
Fantastic, Neil. Let's find out. I think, for me, this is the best team in the division. I really like Frank Reich. We're going to get onto his counterpart later on in Jacksonville in the which one actually won the Super Bowl debate, which is one of my favourites of all time. Both of them can't deal with Carson Wentz for more than a year or 2 by the looks of things, but that's a different story for another time. Why I thought fantasy relevance was when it was Luck, it was, I guess, Luck and Hilton. They didn't have the greatest set of running backs consistently. You add Jonathan Taylor, you've got Michael Pittman. They are 2 players that you have in your top 10. As you said, Matt Ryan's a statue. Is he an upgrade on Carson Wentz? I believe he is. Is he an upgrade on Phil Rivers the previous year? Possibly. Does it help that, again, you're in a poor division? But yes. I do want this team to do well, and I don't really know why. They're a weird team, and I think it's maybe our UK bias, also our kind of anti-Tom Brady stance, but people should hate this team, because the reason that we had the St. Louis Rams and then the LA Rams and all that is because this team moved from Baltimore. But we don't know that, because really when we started, they were indie, and we now only know that from an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary. But this should be a pariah team, and it's not, and I find that quite interesting.
Plus, and I can't stress this enough, we should hate the fact that when they kick off at 6 o'clock our time, the sun comes through the windows in Lucas Oil Stadium, and it makes the viewing unwatchable.
We should also not like the owner.
Well, some of us don't. So.
Yeah. Let's find out who the fancy darling is, however.
Hello, darling.
Well, based on where I have him ranked, I can't really say anyone other than Michael Pittman. So I think he has a potential to command a lion's share of the targets in a team that's going to be efficient when passing the ball. Matt Ryan still has something of his arm left. I mocked that last season that Matt Ryan was lucky and was praising the fact that Ben Roethlisberger was still playing because it showcased how little zip he had left. I was joking, people. The fact I said it repeatedly, that's what I do with my jokes. But Matt Ryan has still got enough of his arm left. He's got more arm left than Phil Rivers had when he came here. So I think that's going to help. It's not going to be a dink and dunk operation when they're passing the ball. They're going to want to lean on the ground game, obviously, but when they do want to pass the ball, they're going to look for Michael Pittman.
Let's find out who the buyer beware is.
I think it's very easy to try and be too clever with this team and think you're going to get value elsewhere. No, it's as I've said. You've got your concentration of three. You've got Jonathan Taylor. You've got Pittman. You've got Naeem Hines. You don't need Jelani Woods. You don't need Mo Ali Cox. You don't need Ashton Doolan. And I apologise, the podfather will hate me for saying that because he loves to be dueling with Doolan. But this is not a team that's in redraft. You're not going to be safe or feel confident starting Mo Ali Cox on a weekly basis, or Ashton Doolan, or Pierce, or any of the others. It's just not worth it. The price they are, the players are going around them. I know at that stage you're going to roster churn. We'll roster churn other people. It's just not worth it with this lot.
The Indianapolis Colts, will they more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl, or not at all?
They're one of those teams that, for me, are... I think they're going to win the division, but I think an awful lot would have to go right, and an awful lot would have to go wrong for other people for them to be in the Super Bowl conversation. They could host a play. Well, if they win the division, they will host a playoff game. They could win it at home, but I don't see them going deep. I just think that, as I say, as much as I like the concentration of playmakers and offense, I think you need a bit more, because it's a little bit... Theoretically, a team could say, we could stop Jonathan Taylor and then say, okay, now beat us. And then, whilst also, stopping the run, you can still say, okay, we're going to take away Pittman to an extent. Who have you got then? So I think they're the best team in the division. I don't really think it's close, but I don't think they're in the upper echelons in the AFC.
I think they're a Week 18 team. What I will say is, beat up your division, first of all. Go 5-1, 4-2. What I will say is, in the divisions that they are playing, so the NFC East and the AFC West, they've been dealt a poor hand, in my opinion, because their home games in the AFC West are Kansas City and the Chargers, and then they are on the road at Denver at the Raiders. So for me, that's the wrong way round. You'd rather get rid of the Chiefs and Charger games on the road and have easier games against the weaker two teams in the AFC West. They also play Dallas on the road, which isn't great, and New York in January on the road, also not great. I think they're a Week 18 team. I think they're probably the best team in the division. They play Washington on the non-conference or the non-division. They play Washington, they play Philadelphia, they play Pittsburgh, and they play the Chargers and the Chiefs at home. They probably need to win 3 of those games at a minimum to make it. But yeah, interesting things to be determined there, and we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Biggest off-season headline, everyone's favourite dancing queen, Urban Meyer, he be gone. The big question:
I ask the questions.
Can Doug Peterson and the team around him get what everyone described as a generational talent in Trevor Lawrence back on track?
You can say what you like about Doug Peterson, and a lot of people do. It ended badly in Philadelphia that last season. It was it could go wrong. Everything went wrong. But the man can scheme and draw up an offense. So he did well with Carson Wentz initially, with some help from Frank Reich, with some help from John DeFilippo. When these people all left, it was then him and Wentz, and maybe it was too much of a. If it's just me and him, there's going to be too much butting heads. We needed a middle ground and whatnot. But I digress. The offense worked for the most part in Philly, even when the plan B stopped. So plan A stopped. Because every year they tried to bring in a deep threat to make the offense function. Whether it was bringing back Deshaun Jackson, whether it was signing Mike Wallace. it couldn't work because these people were gone, so they couldn't play deep shots. They couldn't take the vertical shots, so they became a dink and dunk operation. It was unwatchable crap. It was not entertaining, but it worked. So you like about Doug Peterson? He can coach offense. He's a grown-up in the NFL. Urban Meyer was not. So I think it's a great appointment for Trevor Lawrence because he's going to have someone who's basically going to come in and say, look, I'm the head coach, but my sole focus is you. We're tied to the hip. Now, you sink, I sink. Now, I didn't draft you. This team did. I've seen the talent. I've seen flashes. Lawrence was not held to say last year because the offense was terrible. Seriously, grade school level bad. The number. Even I can see there shouldn't be two wide receivers stood next to each other in a passing pattern drawn up for an NFL game. Urban Meyer was a clown show. He's gone. So, in free agency, this team overpaid to get some level of competence in the skill positions. Agents probably hate how much they paid Christian Kirk. I know I would. Hats off to you, Christian. Get your money. They have some intriguing skill players. The defense is still a bit okay. Wouldn't have taken him myself. Trayvon Walker, but they did. So there are building blocks here. This is not a team that's going to be challenging, but I also don't think they're going to be challenging for the first overall pick because I think Peterson can do enough to make Lawrence look. I'm not going to say like Peyton Manning. I'm not expecting a Manning rookie to Manning second year leap, which basically all it was he cut the interceptions out. Well, it'd be nice if Lawrence actually threw a few touchdown passes. There's a start. Because I think didn't he go 8 weeks? He threw one touchdown pass in that span. Well, that shows you what kind of clown school offense they were running. This team's goal this year, organisationally at all levels, is to make Trevor Lawrence look something like the player they drafted.
Correct. I think everything else is almost irrelevant at this point. They wasted a year of Trevor Lawrence's career and for them financial flexibility at a low cost value for them. I agree with you on getting an adult in the room. Someone like Doug Peterson is an excellent start. Is he not the flashiest hire in the world? Absolutely not. But what he is, he's an NFL coach who can coach NFL offenses and a former quarterback, which is never a bad thing to help in these kind of situations. They need to reach the end of the year and think Trevor Lawrence is the future of this team. We're going to be willing to pay him $35 million a year in 3 years' time. And now we need to plan around how we can get good players around him while paying him that money. Number one picks flame out all the time, unfortunately. But the effusive praise that he got was Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck level effusive praise. So if this doesn't work, then two things will be true. Trevor Lawrence wasn't that thing, and Jacksonville wasn't that place to get whatever talent he had around him. Whatever talent he had in him out. They need to get it to work. Teams like Jacksonville have to overpay because no one wants to go to Jacksonville. This is how it works. You look at, oh my God, I can't believe Tampa Bay got Russell Gage to be their third wide receiver. Yeah, he's got Tom Brady and he won the Super Bowl like 2 years ago and got to late in the playoffs the year after. There's a reason. Like, Russell Gage ain't taking that deal from the Jacksonville Jaguars because why would he? That would be ridiculous. So you have to pay him more money. Unfortunately, this is how it works. They need to get into a situation where people want to play with Trevor Lawrence. They're not there yet. And this year they have to hope that they get further down the line on this. Let's find out who their fancy darling is going to be.
Hello, darling.
Fancy darling is Christian Kirk. I mean, I say he's going at wide receiver 43 at present. They've paid him a lot of money. They're going to use him. Christian Kirk has shown he can make plays. So, I'm not suggesting you go out and build your fantasy team around Christian Kirk as your wide receiver 1, but where he's going now, I think he can well exceed that value and probably push for wide receiver 2, especially if he plays in the slot. We saw in the early days of the Doug Peterson offense in Philadelphia, they featured the slot with Jordan Matthews. We've had Nelson Aguilar was productive out the slot for the Eagles once he moved there. Doug Peterson has shown he can draw up plays for that regard. So if he's going to command targets, wide receiver 43, yeah, that's fine. It's not a disaster as long as it's not he's my wide receiver 1, let's go from here. No, you're going to be disappointed, I suspect.
Let's find out who we shouldn't be touching with buy everywhere.
See, this is not a do not draft him. I think a lot of people are wish casting about Travis Etienne. We don't know what he's like. We've never seen him in the NFL. At the moment, he's going as running back 16. Again, that's not a terrible thing. It's not oh my God, that's too rich for my blood. I just think people are going in and thinking, well, that's a bargain. There's a risk that if you take him at running back 16, that's exactly where he's going to finish. And ultimately, that's not going to help you much. I don't think, at times, this is still not a good team. So, yeah, there's the danger that I've seen that James Robinson is ahead of schedule, because they all are, of course, and is actually going to be the workhorse when he comes back. So does that mean that we're relying on Etienne just to hoover up all the targets and all the red zone work? Well, hang on. Robinson has shown he can be okay in the red zone, and he's not a terrible pass catcher. So if that comes back, you're ultimately saying, okay, what did we get Etienne for? So I don't dismiss the talent. We just haven't seen it yet, but I would worry at his current ADP. It needs to drop a little bit for me to think I'm getting a bargain.
Jacksonville Jaguars more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl or not at all?
They would love to be not at all. I suspect they'll be draftniks. Maybe not the first overall, but certainly we're going to be seeing their name early on when it comes to the mocks.
The schedule to start is not great. At Washington versus the Colts, at the Chargers, at the Eagles, versus the Texans, at the Colts. You could be 1-5 at that point. Now, it does get a little better later on in the year. You play the last 3 games. You play at the Jets, at the Texans, at home to Tennessee. Do you start getting some momentum towards the end of the season? Maybe. I think this is a draftniks team. This is a 6-win max team, and I don't see them winning 6 games. But yeah, UK enjoy Jacksonville versus Denver. It should be a great spectacle. Said no one ever. Final team in this division, and it's the Tennessee Titans. Biggest off-season headline: AJ Brown, he be gone. The big question for this team:
I ask the questions.
Is this the start of something or the end of something?
I think that's an excellent question. We've seen this team has been consistent. It has won. They've overachieved to an extent. They had 91 players suit up last year, NFL record, and got to the number 1 seed in the conference. Now, we all know they don't deserve to be the number 1 seed. Yeah, great, they were. Sometimes you don't get what you deserve. Sometimes you get what gets handed to you. It happened. There was always the worry, though, in my opinion, that this offense needed to add pieces to support the passing game with AJ Brown, not replace AJ Brown. So it's a worry again that we have Derrick Henry, who we know is the engine, we know he's the driver of this team, starting to show some signs that he is mortal. And now it's going to be, okay, well, when he wasn't in the team, no one respected the play-action game. They just teed off on Ryan Tannehill, and that's why he had games where he looked like the bad Ryan Tannehill that got everyone fired in Miami regularly. If we have that situation again, he needs to have reliable pass catchers, and he needs to have a better offensive line. I don't think you can count on both of those things having happened. They have some intriguing pieces on offense, assuming Robert Woods is healthy, assuming Austin Hooper. I do mean Austin Hooper. Assuming he can be the player that the Browns thought they were signing a few years ago, and assuming Derrick Henry is, I see your threat of mortality and I raise you beast mode again. But it's still not a great team, and I don't think it got better. So I think we may see the ending of an epoch, as it were. It could be a bad season for them. I don't think it'll be disastrous. I don't think it'll be a Vrabel out. But I just think they've taken too many steps backward for how many shuffle forwards the Colts took.
I think, and we did talk about it a lot, we should be effusive with the praise of Mike Vrabel and the job he did last season. Thought it was absolutely fantastic, as you said, given a number of plays they had to play and what they managed to do, and given schedules and whatever. We can argue whether they were the number one seed or whatever. They got more wins than any other team, and they beat some very good teams in the way to do that. I don't understand getting rid of AJ Brown. Not wanting to pay him. What did the Eagles pay him? $100 million?
I think so, yeah.
That, $25 million a year is what you pay for a starting wide receiver. A starting number one wide receiver, of which AJ Brown had been one for them. Will Treylon Burks be as good as that? No. I don't think he will be, especially this year. Maybe he will be in years to come, but right now he's not going to be. Tannehill concerned me greatly towards the end of the year, especially in those playoff games. And Derrick Henry's reached the precipice of, we are nearing the end. Now, as you said, he may give us the middle finger and rush for 2,000 yards this year. Fair enough, okay, it's fine. But it's not a long-term solution. AJ Brown, who you got rid of, is a year younger than the guy who the Bears drafted as their wide receiver in the draft this year. It's not like AJ Brown was 28. AJ Brown will be 28 when he has to sign his next contract. So I don't understand it. Can he be as good as last year this year? No, I don't think he can be. Can he be okay? Yeah, because I think they're well coached. I think Mike Vrabel is a very good coach. But I'm not sure they're anywhere near the win they totally got last year, and that makes them the second best team in this division and probably not even a wild card team. Neil, who's their fancy darling though?
Hello,
fancy darling, assuming he's healthy, it's Robert Woods, because he is a number one wide receiver for a period of time before Cooper Kupp emerged. That's what he was in LA. Now he's going as the wide receiver 45. So again, it's not that's your wide receiver 3. If you pick him up as your wide receiver 3, he may flirt with wide receiver 2 based on volume. Not going to be a big touchdown scorer, but he never really has been. But if he can be the leader of this offense, then again, on volume, and I'm not expecting ludicrous yak or monstrous yards per reception or obscene touchdown totals. It's pure volume. So I think getting him where he is now is an excellent move.
Let's find out who buy everywhere is.
It's Treylon Burks. Now, I know the step up from the pro game to from the college game to the pro game can be massive for these young men. It's also the fact that, as an asthma sufferer, I didn't like how people were dismissing this. I think it was glazed over by an awful lot of people. That asthma kills 1,500 people a year in this country. It's a serious condition. Now, if you would assume that they knew he was asthmatic when they drafted him, and therefore they're probably looking a bit more sympathetically, well, yeah, he's not used to this climate, this condition. Apparently it's very muggy. The air quality isn't that great in Nashville. Great. Can I go? Please. Sounds wonderful. The problem we have is that Mike Vrabel doesn't seem to forgive players who don't practice for whatever reason. So if he's already behind Robert Woods now, I suspect he's going to have to take Robert Woods to do, I don't know, sleep with Vrabel's wife or something for the rookie who didn't practice in training camp to vault ahead of him. and he's going as wide receiver 46, so it's only just behind Woods. So I don't think it's worth it. I think you'd rather be better off taking Woods.
Tennessee Titans more likely to be discussed by draftniks in Week 18 in the Super Bowl or not at all?
They are on the border of not at all and Week 18 because I think they could potentially be a wildcard contender because they've got 4 games against the Jags and the Texans and they always split against the Colts. Don't ask me why, it always happens. So there's 5 wins. If you can get up to 9, you're in the playoff hunt. So they're another one, though. If they got in the postseason, they would not make any noise, in my opinion.
I think they're not at all bordering Week 18, similar to you. As you said, they get to play the Texans and the Jaguars 4 times, which is helpful. They play the Giants and the Cowboys at home. The Cowboys at home is Week 17, which will be gold. Denver at home. They play the Raiders and the Broncos at home, so they flip from the Colts played before, which I think is the better way round. Just kind of wipe off Chiefs and Chargers from your schedule. I'm going to say not at all. I think they don't. Maybe an 8 and 9 team here. I'm not 100% sure they're going to do enough to make the playoffs. And then I think it's the end of something then, and what you do at that point with the major question mark, which will be Ryan Tannehill. I think it's tough to argue that we've both gone Colts, Titans, Jaguars, Texans here in the AFC South.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe only one playoff team. You believe there's a possibility of 2.
Possibility of 2, but I'll stick my neck out and say it'll definitely be 1.
Thanks for that. Fantastic stuff. That is it for this week's show. And next week, as we said, top 10 tight ends, and we go deep into the NFC South. What does I like to call it? The Baker Mayfield division. Neil, before that happens, where can people catch you?
Follow me on Twitter at N13. I have a piece out on 4for4 Football about Rondale Moore. Yes, I went unimaginatively unimaginative and called it Less is More of Rondale this year. But please still read it. Don't hate me. I also have another piece coming out where I debate whether I would take Chris Godwin or Allen Robinson in fantasy this year. And I will have a piece out on Numberfire about possible candidates to be the first overall pick in 2023.
I am at Mindy7. Combine me at waxing_lyrical. We've enjoyed the show. I'm enjoying the heat. Neil's about to do a rain dance. And on that note, these top guys are out.